Hi, welcome to Indie Carnival. Let's talk about one excellent scene.
Christ, I hope people are still doing this.
If you've somehow stumbled onto this video and you don't know what I'm talking about, congratulations! You're the last great explorer known to humankind. But, to bring you up to speed, Nando made a playlist where any YouTuber, big or small, can talk about their favorite scene from the X-Men franchise. Well, here I am, the or small YouTube channel to talk about, not necessarily my favorite scene in X-Men, but I would argue one of the most important ones. Of course, I'm talking about this scene. Oh, wait, it's this one. No, wait, hold on. This is it. Now, you're probably thinking, those scenes are way more iconic. Why pick this scene over those? How could you even begin to suggest this scene is more important? Well, first of all, hello, Strawman. How did you get in here? But more importantly, it's because this scene establishes, for all time, the fundamental dialectic at the heart of the series' thematic structure.
Huh?
Basically, this is the moment the good mutants become the protagonists and the bad mutants become the antagonists. For the most part, anyway. And the humans, well, they keep being human. And as for why I put good and bad in air quotes, well, we're gonna have to come back to that. So yeah, why this scene? To really get into the nitty of this gritty, we need to look at a few other scenes first. Yes, I know I could have set this up earlier. I didn't want to. Stop judging me.
Head over to Patreon to judge me and yell at me on Discord.
So, everyone's favorite thing to talk about when they talk about comics and comic-based media is, politics. Luckily, for all the people who hate all the politics and stories about a marginalized class of society resisting, or perpetuating, their oppression, we're gonna talk about something they really like. Fascism! Okay, so I should probably talk about at least some scene from the X-Men, right? Like, literally any scene from the X-Men? Right, okay. How about this one? Red, from Overly Sarcastic Productions, talked about the allegorical nature of the X-Men in their video, and how Magneto breaks that stereotype by being both the shadow and the form, the metaphor and what the metaphor represents. So I won't get into that here. But what's important to keep in mind here is that the reason young Erik was separated from his family and his people and forced along with countless of millions of others to suffer unspeakable evil and brutality was not because he was a mutant, it's because he was Jewish. And think about that. From his childhood, he was taught by the harsh material conditions of his society that humans were, if not incapable of empathy, then certainly they were far too capable of cruelty. It's easy to see how whether this is an inherent flaw in mankind or the gullible were simply too easily corruptible is ultimately irrelevant. What it all came down to was quite simple. Humans will violently dispose of anything and anyone they see as foreign, harmful, or unuseful. In fact, you might even say it was his mutation that kept Erik alive through the Holocaust, horrible of an existence as it was. I mean, let's be honest, a normal child wouldn't have been yanked through the streets by 6 men. They would have been shot. But Erik wasn't the only one who survived, was he? Now, a lot of people have talked about this scene, so again, I won't, but just watch this again and remember, this guy is ultimately the villain. I know, it doesn't make sense to me either. We'll come back to Erik, but first, we need to establish our contrast. Our antithesis, if you like, and subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications. Chronologically, we're first introduced to Charles Xavier as a young boy on the night he meets Raven for the first time. The contrast here from Erik is striking. Instead of his pivotal encounter being with grown men in the terror of the muddy streets of Nazi Germany, Charles meets a little girl in the safety of his own home. She even presents as something intimately familiar to him, his mother. But, of course, Charles is never fooled, and this highlights the comfort that Charles' powers afford him. But that's not his only privilege in life. Professor Xavier, unlike many mutants, has the privilege of presenting as a human. Not just that, but a cis-white male American human with a suspicious accent. Now you may say the same is mostly true of Erik, but there are a few distinctions beyond the obvious disparity in nationality or religious background. And I would argue that Erik understands far better than Charles just how arbitrary those signifiers can be. And let's not forget the obvious example, Chuck is fucking loaded, fam. Like, that school ain't publicly funded, y'all. That's his home. I get that Charles has had to go through a lot of the years, and bearing the psychological trauma of, like, the whole world has gotta be exhausting. I get that. But let's be real. The status quo has worked out just fine for Charles. So, I would never doubt his commitment to reform, but we all know Xavier has no mind for revolution. Xavier seems to be fine with capitulating to the powers of human society, even to the point of compromising his own moral code, or at least allowing others to take advantage of the perceived subhumanity of mutants. Right, so let's talk about how Charles and Erik view humanity. For Charles, humanity is in the eyes of his mother and father, and in the better nature hiding inside of everyone that he is so blessed to perceive. Erik isn't so lucky. Not only can he not see into the hearts of man, but his anchor to humanity isn't the love of his mother, but the trauma of losing her. Can it be any surprise then that while Charles sees humanity as flawed but inherently good, Erik sees them as little better than the pig farmers and tailors that showed their inferiority and weakness when they tried to dominate him as a helpless child and killed 6 million of his people.
By the way, the Holocaust definitely really happened, and denial and/or any form of anti-Semitism will get your ass blocked real fucking quick.
And would gladly do the same to mutant kind, if given the chance. Okay, I think we can actually do this now. I should probably talk about this scene, and this scene, but again, other people already have, link below, and I really need to get on to the main point.
Jesus Christ, I scripted my own lack of focus.
ADHD? What's that? Anyway, so, after killing Shaw, Erik makes his grand entrance doing his whole Magneto float maneuver. Super badass. Totally vibing. But, I gotta say, nothing kills the vibe like the US and Soviet Union aiming a bunch of missiles at me and my friends. Of course, Erik is able to stop the attack in midair, but that's not enough for him. Still, this doesn't come out of nowhere. He warned Charles. He knew what fear drives men to do. But Charles tried to stop him, convince him to spare the good men on the ships, men who had fired these very same missiles at Charles and Erik and everyone they loved mere moments earlier. How many times do you have to be the bigger man in that situation? But the clincher, the part we've been building up to, is this line right here.
It's just following orders.
Because, and I can't stress this enough, Charles is totally cool with the status quo. Yes, things could be better for mutants, but the men giving the orders are good men. The men following them are good men too. The institutions are justified. These men are totally within their right to fire upon unarmed non-combatants for existing. But it is Erik who's in fact crossing the line here. Erik is the one breaking convention, asserting his own survival over the dominance of the power structure. Now, we know how this goes. I mean, this is X-Men. As much as I fucking love the bromance these two had in this movie, we know Erik's not gonna listen. Charles is gonna try to stop him. He's gonna get paralyzed and go bald. Okay. Next movie then? And of course, the first Brotherhood of Mutants is formed. All standard fare. But the reason I wanted to talk about this scene in particular was what Erik said back.
I've been at the mercy of men just following orders. Never again.
This is the unpassable chasm. On one hand, Charles, naively if demonstrably, standing by the good in mankind, and Erik, boldly if callously, standing for the survival of his own. Because, of course, Charles knows that people are afraid. That's not the problem. The problem is, Charles understands why they're afraid, and they don't. And to Erik, all the empathy in the world won't bring back his mother, or 6 million other Jews, or the millions of other people killed in the Holocaust. And for whatever you can say of Erik's methods over the years, his suspicions of humanity have always come to bear. Because, like Stan Lee said,
fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering.
Erik doesn't have the luxury of knowing the better nature of men, as Charles does. Only their cruelty, inhumanity, and startling ability to follow, without question or hesitation, the most unspeakable orders. He lived through that horror once before. Never again. Now, of course, I am not saying that Erik is by default good or that he hasn't committed absolute atrocities in his time. He certainly has. But what I'm trying to get at is you have to give some room for resistance to express itself. Because, like the Jews and Romani and LGBT and the socialists and the communists and the trade unionists and in Nazi Germany, or for a more contemporary example, because history is a flat circle, the experience of African Americans, the lived reality of resistance is messy. Really messy. And yeah, Erik has done a lot of fucked up shit. And there's probably something to be said there about the Israel-Palestine conflict, but as a white-bread American goy boy, I'm just going to acknowledge it and leave it alone. And Charles may hate the tactics that Erik resorts to, and you don't have to like them, but at the end of the day, the only reason Charles could even have his dream of a united world between humans and mutants is because Erik is willing to do whatever it takes to create a space to allow that, in a world that he understands is inherently toxic to that idea. Hey there, gays and days. Thanks for watching this video. Like and subscribe for more videos like this, and not like this, like other things. There's some old things up here on the channel that are like other things, if you want to look around and watch those until a new video comes out next week, I hope. Yeah, what do you guys think? Is Erik kinda right? Mostly right? Entirely right? Just completely wrong and I'm a doo-doo head? Yell at me in the comments so I may offer a bountiful sacrifice to the algorithm at harvest. I'm gonna go feed my cats now. Here's Lula. Bye. Hey, thanks for watching this video, whatever it was. Hope you enjoyed it.
Oh, it sure was something, wasn't it?
It was probably the best video you've ever seen.
I'm really proud of it. And there's a lot more like it and a lot more to come. So be sure to click that subscribe button and click like.
There's always more to come at Indie Carnival.